This book is easily 13, 14, 15 draft. Writing is rewriting.
I sat down with actor and author Max Shippee, and what he said about writing completely reframed how I approached my own books. If you're a storyteller, this is going to hit home.
I'm Brent Lindstrom. Welcome back to Like-Minded Arts, where I've been on a journey going from Hammer to Hollywood, and I want to help you guys go not from just being struggling artists, but to becoming working creatives. And I have a working creative with us today. He is somebody who's been around the world. He's done a lot of it, from acting to writing. Max Shippee. Did I get that right? Is it Shippee?
It's Shippee's, yes. Correct,
Shippee.
Shippee.
Okay.
Yep.
He grew up in rural Maine and knows the woods well. His own journey took him to Hollywood, California by way of Oklahoma, Nevada, Texas, D.C., and even Bali, Indonesia. You can find his spontaneous science fiction installments on Reddit, and now Moonshine, the series, has begun with Book 1, Path of the Raven, which I have just started reading. And before we get into too much of this, I gotta say, Max, your book so far is turning out to be great. Is this your first book?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so my first book was nowhere near as good as what I'm reading off of your book. Just FYI. Like, I read the first chapter or two, and it hooked me. You've got an amazing first opening there. So congrats on that. And as I'm getting into it, the writing quality is top notch. I'm surprised that this is your first book. I'd expect this level of writing to have a lot of
I was very
bad
fortunate
books before it.
Yeah, I can't take complete credit for that. And that, like, I'm very fortunate that I literally sleep next to her every night. My wife was an English teacher forever. She got her master's degree from Stanford in education. She taught Shakespeare for years, so she's way smarter than me, and she totally helped me edit the book.
I love this because every writer hits that moment where you think you can do it alone. Then someone who loves you hands you the truth. Max leaned into that, and it shows.
You know, I usually tell people, don't let your own family help you edit your own book, or your own, your old high school teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe your wife is like mine, and she's okay telling me the honest truth, and even if it hurts. So
right.
So it probably doesn't.
Yeah, the good thing about it is that we're both very much like, especially when it came to this, like, I'm sure you can relate. Like, when you're doing projects around the house, like, who's the boss of this project? I thought we were cleaning the closet, and it's our closet, but why do you tell me where to put? You know what I mean? Like, but with the book, number one, it was my book, so there's a little bit of, there's a lean to, like, I have the final say, but there's also, for both of us, we wanted to honor the story more than anything else.
This is something I wish more writers understood. The story doesn't care about your favorite scene. It cares about what serves it.
So it's about what makes a good story, not necessarily what I want or what she wants, but what speaks best to the story. And that came up in many ways, in that sometimes something that she really liked, as we looked at it, we said, oh, no, that doesn't quite, that's a great tangent, but it doesn't line up with the way the story is. Or sometimes something I really liked was something that we had to cut or move. Or often, like, the spell, if you've already been through the chapter 2, the other spells, when they first come in, when Letha does her first spells, it's a great example of, I had written some kind of things that I thought was fun, a little kitschy and rhymed a little bit, and she took me a little bit to task with it. She was saying, if you want this book to be deep and to have some real meaning to it, then we need to make these spells really mean something. They can't just be kind of cute. They should reference the past of what these people are, or what Letha is as an older witch and what she'll be passing on. They should reference what's coming. That we should be able to go back and read these spells after we finish the book and go, oh, wait a second. Oh my gosh, she was talking about this that was happening, and then wait a second, that stanza means, it should be that kind of fun thing where you don't even realize it's happening in the moment that you're being set up for this stuff.
When he told me this, it made me rethink my own process. The stuff that feels magical on the page usually took way longer than readers will ever know.
Whenever I've done my books, I write some poems. For me, they're really cringy when I first write them. I'm like,
oh my God,
how am I going to make this sound good? And when I was looking at yours, I'm like, this guy's a poet. These sound good. They sound engaging, and I can see that, he's put a lot of thought into these. And so
yeah, well, if it makes you feel
fun.
if it makes you, I totally appreciate that, because if it makes you feel any better, it took us a good 3 to 4 days. to actually finish those, whatever it was. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 stanzas that are in there, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not a thing that just comes out now. and to kind of piggyback on that, you know, I've heard writers be like, oh, yeah, it just came out of me. It was great. You know, I did a couple drafts, and I'm like, a couple?
If you're watching this and you're on draft 2 thinking that you're almost done, you're not. And that's okay. The good stuff happens in the rewrites.
This book is easily 13, 14, 15 drafts, depending on what part. You know, every so often you get a paragraph that comes out great, and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. But most of it is writing is rewriting, and for me, the rewriting part is very, very true.
I love the rewriting process. I remember my first book. I hated it. I thought that the original draft was the funnest part, but the more I've gotten into it, the more my first draft is the throwaway draft, and I love that refining process as you go through it.
My draft is basically me dumping the Legos on the floor. The later drafts are where I actually build something worth looking at.
It's a lot of fun.
Do you find yourself, when you write, do you find yourself more adding to that initial draft or cutting from it? Like, how do you work generally?
I do a little bit of both. So my initial draft is it's basically getting all my thoughts on the paper, and when I'm doing it, I'm not really focusing on the style. Like if something flows great, I'll throw it on there, but mostly it's trying to get the story in the place it's supposed to be at. But often, like, my characters will drive me in different directions off of my outline, because I'm an outliner. And so I'll get off on side tangents. And then once I'm all done with that, my next draft is trying to fit it all back into a story structure. And sometimes that'll add more words. Might add a chapter or two here. It might rip out a chapter or two here.
Sure.
So it's still very fluid at that point. It's not till probably my third draft that I start trying to layer in the creative writing, the words and things that I really want it to say. So by the third draft, it's usually expanded, and then after that is where it starts shrinking.
Gotcha. That does make sense, because when you first, I can completely relate to that, where, you know, having an idea or an outline, and the tangent thing is great, where you write, you know, thousands of words on this character because they're just speaking to you in the moment, and you go and you go and you go, and then you come back to it after 3 or 4 drafts, and you think this is awesome, but it has nothing to do with the main story.
Or it's awesome, but now, because it's so awesome, you got to take out the next chapter or rewrite that structure of how that ties in.
I really want to keep this, so how can I justify keeping this, right? That sort of thing. Oh my God, I love that.
This is the part newer writers struggle with, letting characters wander, but then pulling them back into the spine of the story.
I can appreciate that. It's funny you say outlining, because people talk about whether they're an outliner or a pantser. Is that right? Like, planner, pantser. And I found that as I wrote through this, I kind of had the idea for the world, and then the ending came to me. And then I had this wonderful feeling that I had to earn the ending. And that put just the right amount of pressure on the rest of the book to really make it go deeper and make it earn this kind of ending image that I finished with. Not to give anything away, but I hope hopefully it's a nice, wonderful, earned ending and powerful in the right ways. But yeah, that was an interesting thing, because I didn't really see myself necessarily as an outliner, but, you know, and some people think that if you already know the ending, like, what's the point in writing it? Like, you should discover it on your way. But for me, it was very, very helpful to know where I was going to end up, and then to build everything around it so that payoff was even better.
I love what you say about earned endings, because that's a phrase I don't think that I've heard, but it's one that I don't think I can forget.
This idea hit me hard. An ending isn't a twist, it's a payoff. And if you don't earn it, readers feel it instantly.
I think that, especially for something like a book, a movie's the same way, right? Where if someone spent, for a movie, 2 hours with you, well, you want to make sure you finish with something good, because people will tend to remember, in storytelling in general and interaction in general, they'll remember a highlight of something, and they generally remember how it finished. So if you're putting on a theater show, people remember, like, oh, that girl who sang that awesome song, that was amazing. And then if the finale is good, people had a good time. Even if so-and-so didn't hit their note in the middle and this guy forgot his entrance, as long as the finish and everyone went ta-da at the end and they were together. I do a lot of middle school coaching of their middle school play locally, and that's one of the things we tell them, like, if you're together at the end, you're good. It's middle school, so we don't have huge expectations. But I feel like that same thing applies to books, to movies, to shows, and books especially because they tend to be more of a time commitment. Even if you're listening to a book, my book takes 9 hours to listen to, and depending on how fast you read, maybe it's longer or shorter for reading. So I really feel like if I've taken up 7, 8, 9 hours of your time, I better leave you at the end with something that you're very much thinking about. One of my friends who's a middle school teacher, I asked her about the ending. I was like, do you feel like I earned the ending? And she said, you mean where I threw the book? And I'm like, what do you mean you threw the book? And she's like, because you kind of left me. And I'm like, oh, good, that kind. Okay, great, awesome. Because I tie it up in one way and then I leave some, to look forward to it at the same time. So I feel like I was saying, to earn that ending, I think is really important as artists, to leave someone thinking something. And of course, we want people to have certain questions and we want them to not have other questions. And I'm sure you can relate to that too, where as you're writing, you're thinking that, okay, I want people to be asking this of this character, or I want this question to actually be answered. And if they have this question, okay, I didn't do my job because they should understand that. But I do want them to think about, well, where's this character going, or where'd they come from, or what are they going to do next? Maybe you don't know. So
thanks for sharing your process with us, Max. And if you'd like to give his story a try, check it out by following the link in the description below. Also, we geeked out on a lot more than this, so if you want to catch the whole interview, run on over to my podcast. The link is in the description below.